Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Peter, the Tarot and Pendulum Reader, and I am happy to bring for you today's edition of a Pendulum and Tarot reading. Today's edition, I'm going to be doing a 3-question pendulum and a tarot reading. So it's a full tarot and pendulum reading. It takes about an hour. And I have a lady from Laval, Quebec, who is waiting on the line. Sylvie, are you there?
I am there.
Okay, great. So what we're going to do then is I'm going to proceed to the table behind me. So we're good. Now, I always like to have a little bit of incense burning while I do this, and just to make sure that we have the right elements present. And when I say elements, I'm talking about only positive and healing angels and energies are coming through. You'll notice I have this beautiful angel that is part of this whole process that I use, and that is blessing all the energy and all the work that we're doing here. And I have, of course, some incense burning, and this is important because this is going to make sure that everything that we do today is going to be very positive and of the highest energy possible. Do I have permission to communicate between my spirit guide and Sylvie's spirit guide? Yes or no? And let's not forget that on this grid, you notice what we have here is we have different axes. Now, what you probably will see now, can you see it? Is the pendulum swinging from up to down, right? Are you seeing that, Sylvie?
Yes, I do. I see it well.
Okay, so it's giving us permission to communicate at the highest level possible. And you notice my hands are not moving. This is a pendulum that is divinely guided. Okay, so I do not say, okay, let's make it move to the yes axis or the no axis. This is all done by, the master's hands, if you will, the creator. Okay, so I only infuse love and positive energy into this process. I want to make sure that everything is perfect. These crystals have all been put together so that they will bring about the most positive energy possible, the most positive type of reading. Okay, so Sylvie, what I'd like you to do now is you can listen up here. So what we have, of course, you just saw what the yes was. The no will be going along this axis, this axis. And then we have a possibly answer going this way. And then finally, we have something called check again or rephrase the question. Okay, so if it doesn't like the question or it's not clear enough, it's going to tell me. Okay, so before we begin, do you have any questions, Sylvie?
No, I'm good. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Okay then, great. So basically what I'm going to ask you are 3 questions, or you ask me 3 questions, and you can phrase it in a way like, is it good for me? And then fill in the blanks. Is it good for me to do what, such and such? Okay. In our conversation before, I think you were saying that you wanted to know about a move that might be coming up. So is it good for me to stay where I am now? Is it good for me to move to this particular place? Okay, so let us start. go ahead with your first question, Sylvie.
All right. Is it good for me to move in the city called Point Claire?
Okay, to the Pendulum. Is it good for Sylvie to move to Point Claire? And can you see it? The pendulum?
do.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it looks pretty clear. It's moving in the yes direction, right? I mean,
Right.
that's pretty strong. That's not a weak movement. And it's getting stronger. I'm not moving it. You see that, eh? My hands are very solid, and I make sure that I have both arms solidly rooted. Both elbows are in the cabinet. In terms of the top of the cabinet, I have it on either side of this cloth, this pendulum reader cloth. It's actually called an altar cloth for the purposes of this. Okay, great. So let's move on to the second question.
Okay. Will my financial situation improve at the end of 2001?
Okay, so what Sylvie is asking is, will her financial situation improve by the end of 2021? Okay, so let's see what we get here. Okay, I'm right there, and what is it doing? Starts off a bit slow, but then again, look, it's moving on its own, right? I'm not moving my hands at all, and it does seem to have the same momentum along the yes axis. Look at that.
All right.
So that's encouraging news.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm going to allow you, if you wish, to take a glass of water. You seem to be having some difficulty. If you wish.
Okay, thank you. I'll be back in a second.
Okay. Sometimes, folks, what happens when I do readings is that the energy that we're working with gets stuck in the throat. Okay, so that's probably what's going on. I'm going to do the same thing. And if there's a synchronicity, which there is, anytime I'm doing this kind of reading and I'm connecting between my spirit guide and the other spirit guide from the other person, our symptoms are synchronized. So I'm also having some difficulty with my throat. I'm just going to drink. Okay, so bear with us, folks. We're now going to go into the third question, and then we're going to do the Celtic cross tarot card reading. Okay, so let's move into the center again. I have both elbows anchored to the cabinet. Okay, Sylvie, what is your third question?
My third question is about my health. Will my health get stronger and get better if I move out of this building to a new place in Point Claire?
Okay, so if I understand correctly, you are asking, and I'm going to ask the pendulum, to advise as to whether or not Sylvie's health will improve if she moves out of the building that she's currently in and moves into the other building in Point Claire that she wants to move into. And again, it looks like a yes. Look at that.
Yeah, I see it. Great.
That's pretty positive. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's pretty unambiguous. All three questions have been yes, and it doesn't waver from that. So that's pretty positive, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to work a little bit with the pendulum again later. A little bit. I use it also to do the tarot cards. And what I'm going to do is, because I do all my sessions online now. If I had you here in person, I would get you to take the cards and make 3 piles from those cards. But I'm shuffling them really well, as you can hear in the background.
Yeah, I do hear.
And what I'm going to do, though, is just to really make it random, because it's really important that we have random in the sense that we're not pre-selecting anything, and we don't see the cards at all, right? You don't see them.
No,
But
I
what
don't.
we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to tell me which cards. We're going to do like a 3-card spread. I was going to do the Celtic. We'll do that in a moment, but let's do a 3-card spread. Okay, first. So what I'd like you to do, you see that deck?
Yes.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you to tell me when to stop. I want to divide this into 3, this deck. So you need to tell me to stop and when to stop.
Stop. Stop.
Okay, so that's 1 card, or 1 pile, sorry.
1 group.
1 group. And I'll just move that aside. Now you tell me again when to stop. Go ahead.
Stop.
Okay, great. And so we have the 3 cards, 3 piles, and I'm going to flip the top card. And what we're going to do is look at the past, the present, and the future, okay, in this sequence. Okay, so I don't know if you can see all of these, yes, but you notice the first pile, judgment.
Ooh.
Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? A lot of people have this.
The story of my life.
The story of your life. There you go. Judgment. And I love the picture. I don't know if you can see it, but you've got these people in Bach. I was going to say at first they look like coffins, but they're little boxes. They're all naked, of course, and they're praising, looking upwards into the sky, and you've got this figure blowing a bugle. And so the thing is, it might feel that there's judgment, and that's been part of your history in the past, but it's also new awareness. So somehow, okay, it's almost like you see these guys here, they're all in kind of a grayish color, right? But then they look up and it's all in color. So there's a new awareness through that judgment. But you're stuck. In a way, you look at that, and that's part of your past that has been weighing you down. That's what I'm picking up here.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's move on now. We have the Pentacle. Pentacles, this is in the present. It has to do with the physical. Okay, the physical. It's also and material aspects of self. This all comes from Jung, Carl Jung. He defined the personality as comprising 4 major areas: thought, the physical, the spirit, and the emotion. This one is in particular to do with material, and the corresponding deck, the usual playing cards, 56 cards that we're used to playing, this would be equivalent to the suit of diamonds, okay? And so there's the physical in the present. It seems to me that what that's showing is that, and you even see it in the figure here, you know, this guy is almost nailed down by the physical. He's stuck into his, both feet are kind of stuck in the physical here. His heart, he has his hands, arms around it, and his head. So it's really weighing down, I think, on every aspect of you, the physical part of things. And what if I were to ask you what that means for you? Does it have any kind of meaning when you hear what I'm talking about here? It also says right here that you have this kind of strong need for stability. Very strong need for stability.
Yes, I do have that need.
And that is also tied in with the physical and material wealth.
Okay.
That's where you're at now. It seems that that's what's on your mind the most.
That's very true.
Would that be true? Okay. Okay, let's now move on to the final card, and this is looking into the future. Now, a lot of people, you know, if they just look at that card, see this guy lying down.
Yeah.
And there's these 3 swords. Oh, there's another one underneath. So this is called the 4th of Swords. Now, what does that mean? It's thought. Okay, so thought in your case, and the fact that there's 4, the number 4, is actually good. It's showing there will be stability.
Okay.
There will be stability. And it's going to be very, very calming to your mind. It's going to give you some peace. Okay, and you see actually this person is lying down. Don't worry, he's not dead because he has his hands looking up. But you know, I see, you know, there's 3 cards above and 1 card below, adding up to 4. But I see the positioning of these cards as being, not cards, but swords, as being very, very significant in the sense that the mind has 1, 2, 3 aspects, okay, almost as if it has the Trinity. So there's a very important part of this for you in terms of how you are perceiving your future, that this has to be a part of it, right? The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, or Trinity, Holy Trinity, that's part of your future. But there's also underneath the legacy of your past that's coming into your future. That will not disappear, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, don't think of that as being, oh, you're being pulled. No, in fact, that seems to be growing through you physically, because I'm just reading this in comparison to all this, you know, and it's moving towards a kind of ascension, but in a very positive way, because you notice here we have this stained glass window, and if I'm not mistaken, it looks like we've got Mary Magdalene and we've got Mother Mary, and then this is probably part of the cross that we don't see the other part. So this is a very important aspect to your future. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, great. So let's move along. Strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. Okay, so I'm going to make sure it's well shuffled. We're going to do the same thing again, only I have a slight variation in how I work this time. And, you know, some people say, oh, you're not following this particular method of doing the tarot cards or that card or that way. And, you know, the truth is the best way to do tarot cards is to really put your own stamp, your own individual stamp on it. And so that's what I do. And it works. I mean, I'm telling you, it's amazing how people are coming to me and saying, yeah, hey, how do you know all that? Okay, so we're going to do it again. You're going to tell me when to stop. I'm going to make three piles from this. Okay, tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay. And there's one pile. And then we go again.
Stop.
Okay. All right. So this time, and what's interesting is every one of them is inverted. There's some people who say, oh, you got to interpret that. Why are they all inverted? Again, you can do all kinds of things. I prefer to just read them right side up.
Okay.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, and again, I'm asking for the highest direction and divine energy to help guide this process. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a connection between my spirit guide and your spirit guide again with the highest energy. And we're going to do 3 deep breaths, nice and relaxed, bringing up the energy to the highest possible frequency. Nice, deep, and slow, and relax. That's it. And bearing in mind that this process is guided by the highest order of love, light, and healing energy, we're going to proceed now to choose one of these piles. And we're doing this together. I'm simply going to put this pendulum over each of these piles and decide which of these piles is the best pile to do the 3-card spread for strength, weaknesses, and opportunities. Okay, so we'll start here. I'm just going to get an answer. Let's see what this one says. And we're still using the axis. Is this a yes or a no? And it's saying no. We don't use this one. Okay, let's go to this one in the middle. Is this the best pile to use to answer the question, strength, weaknesses, and opportunities? Strength, weaknesses, and opportunities. Okay, wait for it to settle down first. It looks like it's saying yes. Yeah, it's pretty strong. You see that?
I do, yeah.
Okay, now I always like to do, even though we've got a yes here, I always like to validate and make sure that it's accurate. Okay, is this a good pile to choose to choose for strength, weaknesses, and opportunities for Sylvie, for the reading of Sylvie? And we are getting a no very clearly. Okay, great. So I'm going to just move the other 2 piles over there because we're only going to work with the one in the middle. Okay. And I don't know if you're as excited as I am about this. Whoops, my crystals just fell on the ground. Okay, this is the High Priestess. And it's one of the major arcana, which is very meaningful. Because if anyone's familiar with the tarot cards, you've got 22 cards that are part of the major arcana, and then 56 minor arcana cards. And the High Priestess signifies an incredible mystery there's a mystery. This is part of your strength in the sense that you have a lot of information and wisdom that is part of your strength, the High Priestess.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we see the cross. And obviously, you know, that you possess a certain amount of insight into many, many things, if you allow yourself to do that. So this is a strength. This is something that you can tie into. Do you do a lot of prayer and meditation?
I do, absolutely.
Okay. So it would say here that you have got a tremendous amount of understanding
Okay.
in the world around you, not only the world of three-dimensional, but also other dimensions. So we'll put that over there. That's your strength. Now we ask, okay, what is your weakness? And we have a tower that is on fire.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what is that? What does that mean, the tower? Because it certainly looks pretty bad, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Disruption.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a sense of disruption. There's a fear of everything collapsing,
Okay.
falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, having had, you know, the strength that you do have, that of having the High Priestess as your strength, that has helped you to overcome a lot of disruptions in your life. If you didn't have this strength, you would have collapsed or gone downhill a long time ago. Look at these people, they're jumping off the tower.
Yes.
Jeez, it's awful.
Pretty awful.
Reminds me of 9/11, you know, when
That's true. Yeah.
you had this terrible two towers that were attacked.
Yes. Yeah.
So fortunately, this is your strength. This part of you, you have a connection with your higher spirit, higher High Priestess, of course. So you have a really high connection with spirit, with God, the Creator, whoever you want to call it, and that is part of a very strong part, and it's been with you for a long, long time. I'm talking not just in this lifetime, but in previous lifetimes. That is carried over. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you were, in fact, a High Priestess back in the day when there was more of a matriarch in you know, the spiritual culture of many places. We talk about Egypt and other cultures. So wow, pretty interesting. So let's now look at the opportunities that might lie ahead. That's going to come up in this card, and this card we have wands. Now this is the spirit, okay? And the 5 of wands is change. So there's going to be, it tells me that there's going to be a transformation coming up. Usually we're talking like 3 to 6 months when I do these readings. And you've got here the number 5. So 5 definitely is moving from, remember in the previous 3 cards that I did for you, the middle part, which was about stability, there was that need for stability, right?
Right.
And so that would be number 4. This is 5. This is the next step, which is
Oh,
change. So
okay.
it seems that the opportunity for you lies in your ability to accept change.
I see.
That's what's coming here, because your weakness, as was read from your previous 3-card spread, is a big part of it has to do with your need for physical and material stability, like the status
Right.
quo. There's a
Right.
strong need for that, and it's
Right.
difficult for you to move forward because you're afraid of losing that. And that's coming up again here, of course, is there's a fear of
Yes.
failure and destruction, right?
Okay.
Big,
Right.
big, big, big time. Fortunately, we have the High Priestess is saying, hey, don't worry, we're going to be okay. Just do a lot of meditation, prayer, rise above the fear, and sure
Right.
enough, you're going to be able to transform and embrace the change,
Okay.
which is good for your spirit, because ultimately the spirit is connected to everything, right?
Right.
So
Right.
when people talk about their spirit, they often say, I have no energy, or that was good for my spirit. They're talking, and that affects your emotion. You feel much better if you're having a more uplifting spirit than,
Very
let's say,
true.
if you have a kind of low energy, I'm down, I wish I could get outside and breathe or get some fresh air and just try to, open up so my spirit can breathe. Well, that's what you're going to have the opportunity to do right here. And you notice we've got, I'll bring that card a bit closer. You've got these people, 5 of them, and they are constructing, they're bringing upwards all of these wands, which could also be construed as being a type of building construction. They're building for the future.
Okay. I understand.
And it's very positive, as opposed to this one where people are jumping out of the windows, fear of the fire. But there's a real balance here if you play your cards right. What I mean by that is, if you focus on the positive element, this is a big, big, big attribute, having the High Priestess on your side as your biggest strength. And rising above the fear and then focusing on building your future. And again, we're talking 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
How does that sound?
It sounds pretty positive, and it looks like really my life, actually. So I'm quite impressed with these cards.
That's great.
Yes.
Glad to hear it.
I love also your explanation. It makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
It's very clear to me what you're saying.
Well,
thank you.
Happy to hear that. So we're going to do the Celtic spread, the Celtic cross, in a moment. The next part of this reading, which will be the Celtic cross spread. And this is probably one of the most popular spreads that's been developed over the years. It's going to be able to give us a lot of information, and we'll just take all the stuff that we've done so far and bring even more insights into play here. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to ask you to say, okay, when to stop. Ready?
Ready, yeah. Stop.
Okay, next.
Stop. Stop.
I think it was this one here. Okay. Stop. And then that one in the middle. Okay. Again. Okay, that one is. And wow, the Emperor. Okay, so let us now do the same thing I did before. I'm going to take the pendulum and we're going to ask, okay, which of these piles is best for working with the Celtic cross spread? We'll answer questions, the what, the where, not the where, the what, the why, the how, and the when. Okay, so that's going to give us some answers on a lot of aspects to your life. You've asked questions about your moving, you've asked questions about your health physically, and also about your financial health. Okay, so I'm asking now if I can communicate with both from my spirit guide to Sylvie's spirit guide to determine which of these three piles will yield the best answers for those questions. Is it this one? I'm going in a different direction. Is it the first one here? Yes or no? Is this the one that I should use? And it looks like it's saying no. See that?
No, I don't. I see your hand.
Okay, let's move it further. Like that. Is that better? Okay.
Yes,
so
it is. Thank you.
Is this a good card or pile to use to answer the question that we just put forward? And it's saying pretty clearly that it's a no. Okay. Let's ask this pile here. Is this the best pile to do the Celtic cross spread to answer the questions yes or no? And it looks like a pretty resounding yes. You see that?
Yes, I do. Okay.
And just like I did before, I also like to confirm the third pile. Is this a good one to use to answer the questions for the Celtic cross? And as expected, it's saying no. See that?
Yes, I see it.
Okay. So we'll get rid of these two piles and we'll just focus on this one here. Okay, so I need a bit more room to do this. And I'll just move these guys aside for now, a little bit. Okay. Okay, so that's part of the what question. Then we have the question of why. We're asking what the question is why, right? Okay. So what, why, why, and now we're going to the next question, which is how. It's not in the right direction. What, why, how, and now the final one is just one card, and that's when. All right, but the one question that you have that's most important for you right now, what is
I'm thinking about it. Will my health be improving in 2022?
Okay. All right, so we have the first aspect of this question, and you see this guy who seems to be victorious. The other two probably laid down their swords. Okay, so what does that mean? Swords, of course, represents thought. So part of the question has to do with how it is formulated, and you put an awful lot of your head in this equation, meaning that, wow, you know, it can be a real burden when you are asking yourself these questions all the time, over and over again. But obviously it's an important part, means a lot to you. Now, what I see also here is that he has 3 of the 5 swords. So he's taken the advantage in this case, and I would suggest that these 2 represent your mind, your thoughts. Okay, there's different thoughts, okay, going on that are negative, right?
Okay.
You know, and it looks to me like this guy has taken control of the scenario, right? So look again at number 3. And when we look at this from a Freudian point of view, if we're looking at the id, the ego, and the superego, we have this guy here who seems to be the ego. Now, when it comes to understanding ego, of course, the way a lot of people understand it, it's a negative thing. And when people say, oh, you got a big ego, and you want to try to overcome that. But the way it was really intended when Freud developed this whole concept is the ego is the part that plays the role of a mediator and is able to say, okay, there's one part of me that is like the id, like a child, right? There's another part of me that's like the super ego or the parent. And the child is oftentimes always wanting now, everything now, has to be done now, has no sense of responsibility, wants everything for itself and doesn't care about anyone else, doesn't care about rules, regulations, societal norms, me. Then we have this person here who is the superego, like the parent, and it's like the total opposite of the id, in the sense that what it's doing is enforcing all the rules and regulations and really trying to suppress any creative flow that is being trying to come out of the id. And so this guy, or this part of you, is saying, hey, I want to take all aspects of the self and integrate those parts into a better me. So it's become bigger here. The ego is bigger, and it's good in that it's able to regulate and mediate as a good adult, mature person does, in saying, okay, I want to be creative, but I don't want it to go to the excess of being totally spontaneous and without any kind of control whatsoever. But I also want to put in some, structure, stability in that situation. Okay, I know that was a lot, but that's what I'm picking up from this. That's sort of what forms the basis of the question. That's where you're coming from. with all of,
Okay.
these aspects of self integrated. And this part seems to be the one that's saying, okay, what do I need to do to make sure my health will be good? Page of Wands. What does that mean? Okay, well, Wands, again, we're coming back to that spirit. So that kind of gives us a sense that that is probably one of the most important aspects of your well-being. That,
Okay.
when we look at the mind, body, spirit equation, it is the spirit aspect that really needs to have a kind of priority or prominence in whatever you do. Okay, and the page, this is the Page of Wands. We're looking at new paths. So it's like you've come from here. The ego part of you has taken control or regulate. I don't like to use the word control, but is looking at it from an adult, mature perspective and saying, okay, yes, I recognize that there's these aspects of self, of myself, that need to be regulated, but also they need to be validated. And this part is saying, okay, I'm going to go on a new pathway. And it's going to be extremely important in terms of my spiritual health. And don't forget, the spiritual health is the most important because it's tied into all aspects of self. So far, so good?
Yes, thank you.
So this is still part of the question, and this part of the question here is actually trying to determine whether the question is a good one, reliable, not based on some frivolous idea, and is soundly based. Okay, so what I like about this is that clearly, when we talk about something that has some kind of a valid, solid base, we think first and foremost material, right?
Right.
Physical. And that's what this is, Pentacles, right? That's what this is. That's the card, the King of Pentacles. And what does that mean, the King of Pentacles? It means knowledge. So it means quite clearly that there's wisdom in your question, and it's very solid. It's a solid question. You're not like having some kind of a, like I said before, a fanciful question that is based on some kind of delusion or, it's not realistic. This is a very realistic, solid question. Okay? So we're now going to look at why. Why? Okay, so we're going to say, all right, starting up here, why? This is the High Priestess, and like we said before, this has to do with knowledge, enlightenment, wisdom. You have an awful lot of understanding, and in fact, this is really coming from many lifetimes, many lifetimes. I would even say thousands of lifetimes that you've experienced or more, and you carry that with you. The High Priestess is very patient, or at least it's trying to help you with that. That might be a bit of a weakness sometimes, but she's there to help you. And we're looking here. If you look at this, what does it say? Do you see what it says? What's her book?
No, I don't see.
Torah.
Oh,
the book of Torah. Now, and what's interesting is that we have, first she has a cross, which is a Christianity, right? A symbol of Christianity. Torah is a symbol of Judaism, right? The Torah
Okay.
is one of their major biblical texts that they refer to. So we have here a combination of aspects that you're integrating. And that's why at this point in time, it's an important issue for you. It's a question. And the other aspect of this, it's amazing, you know, I've done this long enough and for many, 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 many years to know that there's certain patterns that come up. And that is when you see the same cards coming up in a reading, you know, with different card spreads, it's very significant. Of course, you recognize this one.
Yes, I do.
There you go. That is, of course, to do with change. There's a need for change.
Right.
And there's a need to build on the future.
Okay.
And to know that with the guidance of the High Priestess, which is very powerful, one of the most powerful cards that you can have. Okay. She is able to take the great knowledge that is often considered esoteric mystery and the Essenes in biblical times, the Gnostics, all come from this background of Judaism and early Christianity. And there is so much knowledge and power. And these fellas are building, almost like you're building. They're like the soldiers for the queen bee. And they're building the palace, if you will, for the priestess. Sound good?
I have tears in my eyes, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tears of joy, I hope. Right?
It resonates so much that it brings a lot of emotion.
Okay, I understand. So it's meaningful.
Very.
That's good. What do we have here? We haven't seen this card before, although we have seen the page. We've seen the swords. The page is new paths. So that's part of the why, and it's almost like it's confirming the need for a change, new pathways.
Okay.
And the swords, we've been there before, in new pathways to make room in your head for positivity.
Okay.
Because swords has to do with thought, has to do with the mind. And what I love here is it's almost as if he's getting ready to go forward. He's sort of just, you know, winding up and getting ready to go forward. And there's all these birds up there that are kind of calling
like
out.
a baseball player ready to hit the ball.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very interesting. All right, so we're now going to move on to the how. Now, the how is perhaps the most important in the sense of how are you going to go of having better health. Okay, so we just moved from the Page of Swords and we moved up to the King of Swords. So that's moving up in terms of the hierarchy of the cards. Okay, and you're going to do that through knowledge. You have a great amount of knowledge that is going to enable you to have better health. And it's going to encompass all aspects of self, mind, body, and spirit, not just, you know, health. Health is,
I
in
understand.
your sense, you have to be looking at every aspect of yourself. And you've got the High Priestess on your side, and you also have the King of Swords on your side. And they'll work hand in hand to ensure, if you play your cards right, like to use that term, to make sure that you arrive at your destiny. Now, you've talked about a move as being part of the equation here, and moving to Point Claire looks like it's going to be very good for your health, every aspect of your health. Now, look at the next card, the Devil. Ooh.
Yeah.
Now, quite a card.
Yeah.
And this is one of the major arcanas. And it can be a very important aspect to this whole process. Okay? In the sense that what you need to do is to ensure that the path is truthful.
Okay.
Because he represents false truths. So to be able to ensure that, what the King of Swords has brought to the table along with the High Priestess, they're working in concert, there's always opposition, right? No matter what we do in life, there's opposition. There's forces that try to do everything in their power to, I'm not going to say the word, things up. You know what I mean? Like there's always someone, there's something that happens that in some way is going to screw things up. So this card clearly is looking at Adam and Eve, right? Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And here she is carrying some grapes or something, probably wine. And they've been somehow corrupted by the devil, and they're chained to each other. And so if you allow yourself to indulge too much in the material, you will become a slave to this part. And it's a false truth in the sense that material gain in the end is like slavery. So it's important to keep things in balance. I'm not saying, no, you shouldn't be pursuing happiness and having some kind of material wealth as part of the equation, but to not make that as your primary goal, to have balance. Okay? And the way to ensure that, and I like this card, this is really nice. Again, we're looking at swords, thoughts, but that's, intersecting with the heart. So you can't help but see this as also being an interplay between thought and emotion, right? And you know what that signifies? The three? Creativity. So the emotion, the heart, and the swords, thought and emotion, if you play them right, you're able to be very creative, and you can take all of these aspects of self and create a palace, create an ideal place that will manifest all of your desires and goals. To include, having good health in terms of mind, body, spirit. You're going to have an abundance of health, wealth, and happiness by employing your creativity. The creativity, I have a sense that that's been kind of not really, you haven't allowed it, or you've had circumstances that have not allowed that part of you to emerge or to really come out as much as you would like it to. Am I right? Does that
right.
sound right? Okay.
Yes.
So what this is saying is that in order to manifest at the highest level your goals, you need to be creative, very creative, and to use your emotion and your thoughts. So you kind of start with the thought. You bring Greg Redden is talking a lot about how to manifest things, and this illustrates it perfectly. You want to be able to first have your thought, right, clearly identified in your mind, and then bring it into your heart, right? And then you send it out to the universe, and you are co-creating with the creator. You are developing your own future. So it sounds pretty positive. This is the how. This is how you are going to achieve this. And then finally, the question that is on everyone's mind, usually at this point, is when? When is all this going to happen? Right? When? And that is in this card here. This is the card that has the answer. And when we talk about 3 to 6 months, usually we're talking, you know, in this sense, we're in the month of August, the end of August. So August, September, October, November, December. I would say that sometime between now, January, February, this is going to happen. And what is this? What do we have here? The number 8. So it's actually saying maybe in 8 months. Maybe 8.
Okay.
But it signifies advancement. Okay. And so advancement, I think, is a very good thing. It's realistic. It means that your choices that you are making now is going to lead to advancement. You're going to have the answers to your questions realized, and it's going to mean you're moving forward, not backwards. Now, it might be kind of deceiving when you look at this woman who's all tied up, right? And I can understand that. But when you talk about mind over matter, think about, you know, where you're at. And we have water down there, which is usually a symbol of the spirit and quenching your thirst. So there's something happening here. There's a transformation. There might be a part of you that is being kind of suppressed in a way. Okay, but it's as if, you know, you're going to be moving from this place to what's over there. Do you see through the swords? There's a castle.
Okay.
See that? There's a castle.
Yes, I do.
So,
I do now.
So it's almost like you're going to move from this side of this fence. It's almost like a picket fence, and you're going to be moved to the other side. Okay. So 8 is advancement. And again, this comes up a lot for you. Swords. This is going to be a kind of advancement in the sense that you're going to be reborn in a way. Okay. And because, you know, a lot of these, because we start with this, the what? See this one here? The 3, he's holding the 3 swords. Okay, so aspect of self is being regulated by the ego aspect of self. The id and the superego have laid down their swords. So they're saying, okay, ego, you can take charge and mediate and take the 3 forces, the 2 forces of id and superego, make them work for me. King of Swords, lots of power and understanding and knowledge. with the King of Swords. I mean, look at the sword, the king. The king is authority, right? So it has the authority to bring about change. And when we look at the High Priestess, this is like all of these years that you've been waiting. And I'm talking about not just in this lifetime, but it seems to me that for many lifetimes, you've been waiting. There's been many delays. And now the opportunity is just on the other side of the fence. It's there.
Yeah, I see it.
There. Yes, there's a hill to climb.
Mm.
And, you know, if I can kind of read into this a bit further, I see that there's a need to maybe have a certain amount of blind faith, because I notice you have this covering over her eyes. Have a blind faith in the process that things are going to work out just as they're meant to work out. And you kind of have to hold back your tendency to want everything to be done now. Have some blind faith in the process and know that you're being nurtured right now. That's what the water is. There's a spiritual kind of process that is feeding into you as you stay there. You can't really move, but that's because what awaits you on the other side of the fence is your answer, castle. Very promising future indeed. And 8 looks like it's going to be more like 8 months rather than, you know, I say 3 to 6 months, but in this case, 8 months. So here we are, August, so September, October, November, December, January, April. Can you wait that long?
I think I can.
Okay then. So do you have any questions, Sylvie?
No, I think you really went deeply in a lot of topics, subjects, things I had on my mind. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. That was a great, great reading. And you got me to tears at one point. So that's quite profound. So thank you very, very much, Peter.
My pleasure, Sylvie. And thank you for those kind words.